Let's go to the US now, where an Iranian man has been charged with plotting to murder John Bolton, the former national security advisor for Donald Trump during his presidency. Iran does not currently have an extradition treaty with the United States, meaning the suspect, known as Shahram Pousafi, cannot currently be taken in by the US authorities. Well, joining me now live from Washington is John Bolton. Thank you for being with us. First of all, I mean, what do you make of the charges against this man?
Well, they sound perfectly clear to me. I think this is a plot by the Iranian government against a former official of the U.S. government. I can't say a lot of things, but I can say I'm not the only one that the Ayatollahs in Tehran are trying to assassinate. So this is the kind of government we have in Iran. And I think it should tell everybody, including the government of Great Britain, why this is a government that trying to resuscitate the 2015 nuclear deal is a terrible mistake strategically for us and for our friends in the Middle East.
I mean, you have no question or no doubt that he was working on behalf of the Iranian state. I mean, who else? You mentioned other people. Who else do you think they were targeting or trying to kill?
Well, I don't know about this particular individual. There are others who it's been reported in the press. It's really not for me to get into the specifics. But it's not just former government officials. It's private citizens in the United States. And this has been something the government of Iran has done from the time of the Islamic Revolution in 1979, when they seized the American embassy and kept our diplomats hostage, to the time that through an element in Lebanon that later became part of Hezbollah, they blew up the Marine barracks in Beirut. They've attacked our troops and our diplomats through Shia militia surrogates in Iraq and Syria. This is a murderous, lying regime. It's an enemy of the United States, and we need to treat it that way.
But the chance of this individual ending up in an American court is pretty remote.
Well, for now, but we have our ways, and we'll see what happens. I think it's important that this document, this evidence, was unsealed by the court here in Washington this morning. I think it helps the citizens of the United States and really in the world as a whole see exactly what the nature of the regime in Tehran is. And to think that any commitment they make would be honored is a clear mistake. And I hope in Britain and in the European Union that people realize that.
And so you think it is possible, do you, that he could face trial in the United States? What, because you'd get a hold of him somehow, or what? I mean, because of the change in the regime, or what?
Well, you know, American law enforcement is very efficient. And as our cousins to the north in Canada say, you know, the Mounties always get their man. We may get this one.
And you were, I mean, it was no secret, an advocate of maximum pressure on Iran and escalating sanctions, and even asking, I think, at one stage for the military options over the nuclear issue. Do you still have that view?
Well, I've gone beyond that. I did before I was in the White House. I think the only way we're going to get peace and stability in the Middle East is to get a different regime in Tehran. And I have long believed that their nuclear weapons activities and their support for terrorist groups like Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis in Yemen, and their direct acts of state terrorism, like going after American citizens on American soil, are all part of the same mix. This is the nature of the regime. This is the regime's ideology. This is the threat we all face. And as I say, I hope the information that's been made public today helps inform citizens so that they know more fully what the nature of the Iranian regime is and what the threat is.
I mean, but seeing regime change in Iran could lead to all sorts of difficulties and problems, given that they are, you know, developing a nuclear weapon.
Unlike the ones we have now. Unlike the ones we have now.
But I mean, we saw what happened in Iraq.
Yeah, well, if you can imagine a worse regime than the one we have in Tehran now, I'd like to know what it would be.
Look, so the EU is trying to salvage the nuclear deal, the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. You clearly don't think that's the way forward.
The 2015 deal was a mistake when it was made. The Iranians never should have been allowed any capability to enrich uranium. The deal has not gotten any better with age. The Biden administration has spent close to 18 months on its knees, all but begging Iran to let us back in the deal. It's a huge strategic mistake. I hope there's a new government coming in Britain. I hope Britain's view changes from that of France and Germany, which have been mistaken for many, many years. I think people need to wake up to the nature of this regime. They're getting perilously close to a nuclear weapons capability, which in their hands threatens their neighbors in the region and really the world as a whole, and the potential they would give that to terrorist groups without having to deliver it via a ballistic missile should worry all of us.
How close do you think they are?
Well, it depends in part on how close their cooperation with North Korea is, since they're both benefiting from the Pakistani nuclear entrepreneur A.Q. Khan, who sold them the initial uranium enrichment technology, who provided them with weapons designs, and because we cannot be sure that we have full intelligence as to what Iran is up to. I mean, if anybody has learned anything from prior experience, don't count on knowing what some foreign government is not doing, because we have been limited in our capabilities in Iran for many years. And the idea that the 2015 deal opened Iran's nuclear program up to real inspection is a total charade.
And just on the issue of the charges against this individual, do you still think there's a threat against you? Have you changed your security, and are you very much aware of a threat against you still?
Well, it's not what my opinion is. It's the opinion of law enforcement and the intelligence community. I've been granted Secret Service protection again by President Biden since last December. I think obviously that was the correct decision. I'm grateful that he made that decision, and it will continue as long as they deem it necessary. It's not my call.
Quick word on Donald Trump. This FBI raid on his home. What did you make of that?
Well, I don't know what to make of it, because I think there's a lot of information we don't know. And I think a lot of people on both sides, Trump's defenders, Trump's opponents, have gotten a little hyperthyroid about it. I do think it has obviously generated considerable attention. And I think the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, would be well advised to speak publicly to this question. One way we could eliminate some of the uncertainty would be for Donald Trump to make public the search warrant that he was given, so that people can see what the FBI was after.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Is there a sense, though, do you think, that this could help Donald Trump politically, enable him once again to claim a witch hunt, that it's the establishment against Donald Trump?
Sure, that's what he's doing now. And that's why I think that, in the normal course of things in the United States, as in Great Britain, law enforcement does not speak when it's conducting a criminal investigation or when it's conducting a prosecution. It speaks only in court filings and court appearances. That gives others an advantage because of that silence. But there is a procedure in this case. I think it should be the Attorney General, when it's a matter of public interest like this, that he can reveal more than is commonly the case. And I think it's justified here. I think it's important for him to explain and to back up why the Justice Department took this step. And just to make one point clear, obviously the Justice Department didn't do it on its own. Under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, they had to go to a federal court. They had to show that there was cause for a search warrant. And a judge, a magistrate in this case, had to approve it, which is also what happened. So they followed the constitutional procedures, and if they feel that they were right, I think they need to get out and explain why. And
just a couple more. Jason Miller came on this program last night. I'm sure you know him, saying he thinks Donald Trump will definitely stand. What do you think?
I don't think ultimately Trump will run. I think he's afraid of losing. I think for Trump, the worst thing in the world is to be known as a loser, and he doesn't want to lose in 2024. I think he'll try and be a kingmaker in the Republican Party's nomination process, and he may well have success in that. But when it gets right down to it, he will talk about it incessantly for the next many months. But I don't think ultimately will be a candidate.
And just finally, was Nancy Pelosi right to go to Taiwan?
100% right. It's the right thing to do. The United States should stand by Taiwan, should not put up with this provocative behavior by China. I think people all along the periphery and the Indo-Pacific around China are worried about Chinese efforts to establish hegemony in that space. They look to the United States, and frankly, they'd like to look to Europe too, to see us make common cause with them. Taiwan is the focal point, but many others feel threatened as well. So this is an issue for the rest of this century, whether China's belligerent behavior will be countered or whether it will be successful.